One symbolic overlap is the use of streamed computer text. The Matrix gets this metaphor in right away during the opening titles and establishes it as a core theme. These data streams happen again once lead character Neo is unplugged. Viewing the Matrix from outside on a set of monitors, we see the same data streams. And in his victory moment where he gains so much understanding and power of the Matrix program, he begins seeing it for what it is from within the program. Essentially, the Matrix is a prison constructed of complex computer data. The film actually conveys this ongoing data repression theme with a great deal more subtlety than this, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Blade Runner, with its emphasis on genetic engineering, presents computer data repression as a secondary theme. Our opening view of a city takes us into the window of the giant, all-powerful Tyrell Corporation. This is the very first interior set, and the first time we see a character on screen. In the same shot, a small computer monitor is reeling off streams of green computer data, and it does so for the rest of the scene, along with the machinery of the VK test machine which assists Holden, the interviewer, during his questions. And when he's shot twice, the second shot shows him slump forward, with another screen full of computer data in the background. There was no one in that cubicle, but yet the computer screen was on and processing data anyway, a further communication of computers imposing on people from all sides. Examples of computer data stream displays are present in many scenes. The interior of the flying cop car. Outside Bryant's office we can see mysterious light-panelled interface machines on the right, then pan down, and there's a screen of green data gibberish by his door. Deckard knocks this monitor slightly when he walks in. The on-screen profiles of the replicants show their data streamed onto the image slowly instead of just appearing instantly. In the street scenes outside the iLab, there are more data screens. What data they're showing and to whom is a mystery as no one's reading them. There are more at the entrance to Deckard's apartment building where the elevator displays green digital text as well. More monitors full of streaming green text are outside JF's apartment building. There are data streams above and below the monitor of Deckard's photo analysis machine, plus the number crunching and grid patterns of the photo analysis itself. More data screens are here. Next to Tyrell's bed. And here. So basically lots of data processing displays were hooked up in the sets, even in places where they logically weren't needed, but it serves as a general reminder of the ongoing influence of computers. Back over in the Matrix, computer data streams are present in more ways than just the obvious vertical data streams on computer screens. There's Neo's alarm clock. There are very few props in his office cubicle, but he has a couple of phone books which basically contain lots of numbers. There's Neo's case file with its emphasis on data crunching, which is also verbalized.
You have a social security number, you pay your taxes.
Note the prominence of the colour green in these examples, by the way, like with the Matrix data itself. All the exit signs in the film are green too. In the real world, sometimes exit signs are green and sometimes they're red. But back when phone boxes were used, I don't recall them having green light panels. The colour green is used to convey ongoing data streams even when it's not associated to actual digits or written text. A general impression is given of a green tint being superimposed over most scenes that are set inside the Matrix program, and it's very noticeable that outside the program the sets are mostly greys and blues. I don't know how much green tint was used in the Matrix program shots, if any. Neo's stubble looks slightly green here, though that might have even been a deliberate makeup choice. And the $100 bill here looks more intensely green than real ones. I think that what's mostly been done in this respect is that the general green tint was created on the actual sets with practical green lighting. There's also a huge preference for actual green props and green set construction. There are so many of these I could probably spend 10 minutes listing them, so I'll just show you some examples here and let you notice the rest when you next watch the movie. The more sneaky ones are worth a mention, like the green tinted glass in this car window, or the Latin writing in the Oracle's kitchen being in green. At several points, green netting or tarpaulin is draped over buildings, and in one case a truck. The TV on which Neo is shown the reality of the post-apocalyptic world is a dirty-looking thing with a greenish frame on the front. This clip on that TV of people in a hall is very green. And look at Morpheus's green tie with data-like patterns. Remember that their interaction here is occurring within a simulation program, not the actual Matrix, but still a program. And there's green mould on the chairs, which has no doubt been deliberately placed there by the prop designers. If that mould was incidental, then those chairs would stink on the set. Dirt and green mould in vertical streaks is found in some of the decaying sets in the Matrix program too. That general green decay might be a metaphor about the oppressive data being something unpleasant. The persistence of green sometimes gives a kind of sickly feel, and when Neo is outside the Matrix and is flipping out after finding out the truth that his life was a lie, he vomits greenish bile. Like he's puking up the dregs of computer data. All this greenery is a kind of subliminal precursor to Neo seeing the Matrix itself as green data streams, like the evidence of the data was subconsciously already there and waiting to be fully realised. Blade Runner, however, takes a different approach to the colour green. It seems to be the least used colour in the movie until those mountain shots at the end. So it seems they've gone for a more traditional colour symbolism, green representing nature, in contrast to the rest of the film being dominated by cold blues and grey. In The Matrix, there seems to be some sort of colour conflict between green and red. In this simulation, a woman in a red dress morphs into Agent Smith. Red is obviously a sexual colour, especially in that context, but there seems to be more to it. The steak that Cypher eats is red, so again, red is associated to desire. There are blocky red pixelated designs behind this fella in the entrance to the building where the Oracle lives. I'm not quite sure what that means, but they stand out like a sore thumb. A pair of evil-looking guys is graffitied over them for some reason too, maybe a hint of general ongoing surveillance by agents. When Neo awakens in his pod, the consistence of green is jarringly broken by the sudden presence of a screen full of deep red. In this context, the colour shift logically equates to the transition from data processed illusion to organic reality. But red, as the colour of blood, is also used to symbolise danger or aggression. Hence red lighting is used frequently in sirens. We've all heard the term red alert, and here it is actually used in the movie. So perhaps red is used here also to emphasise the utter panic that Neo feels. And that same contrast between red and green is later used when Neo sets off a metal detector right before a gunfight. Incidentally, red and green have been theorised by some psychologists as being the colours that clash the most psychologically. Wes Craven has said that this is why he chose red and green stripes for Freddy Krueger's sweater in A Nightmare on Elm Street. It might also be why they're used in traffic lights too, with red for stop because to go would be dangerous at that point. Back over to Blade Runner. After Holden being shot, we cut to a giant billboard screen displaying adverts to the population. The billboard is broken up into smaller panels and each panel into smaller pixel-like components. Now the filmmakers could have just shown a standard smooth-looking display image as they did with the blimp's giant display screen, but the manner in which they've constructed this billboard emphasises the scanline nature of computerized imagery. Traditional film stock-based displays aren't broken down into scanline data, they're basically a series of actual photographs, a light and chemical imprint process. But the invention of analog-based broadcasting signals followed by today's digital video formats transformed film stock into linear strings of scanline data. So I think the design of this billboard, which makes the scanline nature of the display obvious, is to emphasise to us the false reality of the advertisements. In the shot where the camera moves in to introduce Deckard, he's surrounded by TV screens that show malfunctioning displays of similar commercials. Their coloration is inverted and the frames flicker off-center so that we occasionally see the timecode data. The artificiality of the commercials is literally on display. Just think about the effort that would have been required to actually set up these TVs and video machines to show this data in this way. A fair amount of effort has gone into that. When we get to see the shots of the blimp, the display screen on it looks smoother and more reliably functional than those other screens, but the advert itself visually conveys the surface of Earth as being like a huge computerized circuit board. That's kind of what we see in the opening shot of the city and in our own real-world nighttime cities. A vista of electronically generated lights, a circuit board with roads as data pathways. The visual presentation of the city being a sort of vector graphic landscape is repeated in one of the displays in the cop car too. The consistent use of neon lighting in the sets, which is often overlapped or reflected in windows, gives Blade Runner a slightly Tron-like appearance, Tron being a film about computerized parallel reality. I'm not saying it was a Tron reference, the films were released in the same year from what I can remember, I'm just noting how neon generally conveys electronic-based environmental systems. In Tron, neon lighting is sometimes used specifically to convey pathways for data, and perhaps the neon in Blade Runner can be taken to underhandedly suggest the same thing. With regard to the little monitors that show data streams and the big screen with its scan-like structure, I got the impression with one or two shots that even the rows of floor lights in the huge building structures represent data streams. This one in particular actually has a data screen in shot on the right and has entire buildings lit in green in the distance. There's some green giant neon lettering on one of those buildings, and on a foreground building on the left, more green neon text. Buildings full of green lights, we didn't see that anywhere else in the movie, so it looks here to be an intended parallel with the data screen in the same shot. Note that the rows of window lights are more or less the same size as the green text on the computer screen. That got me wondering as well if the instances of prominent window blinds creating horizontal stripes of light could be a screen data metaphor too. I'm not convinced of that one though. It's probably just a film noir thing. Back over to The Matrix. After this movie was released, I started noticing more and more other movies using a generalised green tint that was quite annoying and distracting. Whether those films were actually trying to copy The Matrix's visual style without realising that the tint wasn't thematically appropriate to their own films, I'm unsure. But even Ridley Scott's own film Black Hawk Down has this green tint. I find it quite ironic, however, that green screen photography is used in CGI effects movies, and so The Matrix, a CGI-heavy movie, has a greenish appearance that reveals the presence of data in the fictional Matrix and serves as a reminder that what we, the viewers, are seeing is in many parts a false reality in which different elements of the image were shot against a green screen. This metaphor isn't necessarily lost on the filmmakers though. The usual Warner Brothers and Village Roadshow production company logos at the start of the film are redesigned in green and black, suggesting the movie itself to be part of a larger matrix that the audience are already in. The film title itself emerges out of a data stream, and dimensional transitions within the movie are sometimes depicted as journeys through TV screens, the filmmakers knowing full well that the audience will be watching the movie mostly on TV screens. Blade Runner doesn't go as much for direct metaphors of including its audience as being part of the narrative, but I was amused at an accidental parallel. The logo for the production company that made the film, the Lad Company, shows a tree, a symbol of nature, appearing in a gradual succession of streamed scan lines like the computer data in the movie itself. This is accidental, of course, because the Lad Company already had that logo before Blade Runner was made. Remember the green and red colour conflict in The Matrix? Last parallel before we move on. The Matrix can plausibly be interpreted as a metaphor for cyber warfare between the general population and corrupt powers in charge of technological systems. The lead character is an internet hacker, and his primary enemies in The Matrix are agents dressed in suits who wear shades and have profiles on what they perceive as dangerous individuals. In other words, his enemies are an equivalent of FBI agents or maybe the CIA or NSA, it doesn't matter which. Journeys in and out of the Matrix are conducted by phone lines, just as we access the internet through phone lines. If the movie wasn't a metaphor for cyber warfare, then any old device could have been used to represent a portal or gateway, perhaps a door or a mirror. Actually, a mirror is used when Neo is properly unplugged from the Matrix for the first time. A very strong clue to the Matrix basically being a metaphor of the internet is that the team he hooks up with include the names Mouse and Switch, two features of computer hardware, and the traitor or Judas character is called Cypher, which means encoded. Blade Runner predates the existence of a publicly usable internet by several years, and the storyline of the film contains no overt references to an internet. But see this newspaper being read by Deckard upon his introduction? Even in the HD version, it's hard to read any of the text. However, this production photo of Harrison Ford chatting with director Ridley Scott makes the main headlines of the paper very easy to read. The prime story is about farming, and the secondary story features the title, Worldwide Computer Link-Up Planned. So it seems that the filmmakers were paying attention to the direction the communication technology was beginning to take at the time.